No meetings. That you? All right, what is this?
That's the thing about raising the inventory.
It's just a
The
format.
inventory, well, no, we could go back to it. But Amy actually did it. And nobody, anybody that's gonna tell the truth, is gonna tell the truth and goes in the inventory. Because otherwise, they'll get a building permit. This is supposed to fool people to think that they're gonna tell someone to put them in the house.
So it's an inventory form that goes to people.
We bring it back in as a penalty, some outrageous amount if you don't do it. So it was always a big, it's popular thing. So, no, it's not true, but it was right. Doesn't matter on those.
Actually, we're sitting too close to each other. This is a sign of
All right, it's 6 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order, establish the allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So Mike is going to clarify some questions we have on the minutes, so we're going to hold off on that. Budget versus actual, nothing new, so we're going to start right in with the recycling equipment grant.
So the only thing that I was able to put in for was a desire to apply for it.
Okay.
So the actual application will not be available until October, number one. And won't be awarded until the spring of next year. In light of that, I would like to go ahead and get the used trailer. I'd also like to get the radiator fixed. The used trailer, the problem is with the new trailer, first of all, it's going to be about $100,000. So I'm trying to find one that's in the $50,000 range, which is not very low. There's nothing, absolutely nothing listed anywhere. Even if we were to find it, we need to do something for a backup, and that Ram trailer is not cut it as a backup. So if we were successful next year in getting a trailer, then fine, get the one that's we're buying for cheap money now and use that as a backup. Get rid of, you can't get rid of the truck this year because we would have no truck until sometime next summer. And Louis has pointed out that there's a real concern about when the radiator is going to go and whether it's going to be in Maine or not. And the price tag on that was about $4,500 to get that fixed. So to summarize it, we're not going to save any money from that grant for next year. That's number one. Number two is two problems with the trailer. If we see the money next year, right now, it's an 8-month delay to get a trailer and you put the order in. We could switch to steel on the trailer next year, which would increase the speed, so it'd be down to about a 2-month delay. So that could be fixed. A steel trailer for us doesn't make much difference from an aluminum trailer because we don't care about it. You know, it's not, it doesn't have to be road legal because that's not what we put out trash and stuff. So that would be the idea is to go to a steel if we're going to get something new. On the truck that I looked at last week sold last Well, almost gone. That was 45 grand for a 2015 truck, 500,000 miles on it, and a wet kit. The wet kit's worth probably 5 to 7 grand. Does that sound reasonable? You know anything about a wet kit?
What is it, what deal?
It's the hydraulic lines and the tank to run the live floor or anything else on the truck.
I see.
Okay.
Basically a PTO.
Yeah, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And you gotta have it on the rig. So, I haven't done one in 10 years, but the last time I looked at it was about 5 to 7,000.
And that's if you get a new trailer.
Right. Or
So-
if you get a used one. that
But
doesn't have
we're not spending anything until after October.
further grants, that's
Yes,
correct.
so, right now what you need is the trailer that I believe you already have a purchase on. So-
Yep, I do. I just,
And the radiator repair.
in the radiator repair, which
I think we have to do that as well.
I believe that's correct, no matter what. I mean, if you got a new truck next year, it means the value of this truck, if you get rid of it, it's gonna be higher. So, everything's a zero-sum game. Plus, we're spending 21 grand for the trailer, but we're gonna get rid of one trailer right away. And eventually, with the grant, you're gonna get rid of 2 trailers. And if you get the grant, you're gonna get rid of 2 trailers in the truck.
If we're not changing anything until at least next year,
Yeah.
just go ahead and do it.
The only question I have is the same one I ask every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Who's gonna drive it?
2 people. One is we have a person now employed by us that has a Class A.
Right, and is it in his job description to drive the
It
trash
is
truck?
not, but it doesn't mean we couldn't ask. It's only happened, I don't have JRs in here, but he's only had to be replaced 3 times in 5 years.
But he will have to be permanently replaced at some point. So hear me out. So if we're gonna spend $150,000 or $200,000, which is nice, and I'm glad you found it, I'm not trying to be argumentative.
Okay.
This is my job and this is my position. So if we spend $200,000 on all this equipment and then JR retires 3 years from now, who drives it?
So 2 answers, 3 answers. If he retires 3 years from now, you go hire someone. We just hired somebody that's got a Class A. We could hire another person that has a Class A. It's not impossible. The amount of money we're paying for the Class A is pretty nominal, all things considered.
But as of right now, it's JR and the new
So
house.
let me answer the question. So the first one is comparison. The second issue is we have a guy down in Ulster who has agreed to be a backup in case we need to have that done. Okay. And then the third one is that we get somebody else on the staff that has a Class A, that's willing to do it once in a while. And as I said, I suppose if we get ill and we need it for a long period of time, but at that point, we may have to do a permanent change.
Right.
But the long and short of it is you got 3 backup plans: person on staff, person to hire to replace them, and also those are the 3 backups.
But again, the point we're getting at right now is you're going to apply, the desire to apply for the grant, and we're going to fix existing equipment.
Yes.
Because we can't change anything for a while. So that's all we really care
Right.
about.
The earliest you can really change
Right.
anything is next year, next spring or summer.
Okay.
All right, so I get a motion to go ahead and repair the trailer and the truck.
Motion to buy a trailer, right?
Yep.
And to repair the truck.
Yeah. I'm not on board, so
So then I'll second.
Okay.
All in favor?
I strongly believe we are not setting ourselves up to go forward. We are setting ourselves up for a roadblock.
You should have said no before you said that.
Well, that's what I just said. Yeah,
Scott, just a quick question on that. How about starting a thing when you hire somebody, like if Dan retires or you get another person to take Barry's place? Why don't you start now for that next employee you have with a Class A license?
It's, well, since Dan informed us about the cost now to get it, that is something we're looking at very seriously.
I mean, it
It's
just
not cheap, but it's not easy to get, so.
And it's been fair to say we have looked at it, so we look for the mechanic. Ideal mechanic would have a Class A.
yeah. That is part of what we started looking a little more in depth through our applicants and trying to nail people down that did have CDLs.
Right.
So, yeah.
I was just thinking before that.
Yeah.
At the park, then you don't have to worry about somebody from the highway department.
Right.
Pulling them from their jobs that they're trying to get done.
The biggest problem we have with the transfer station is it's not really a high paying position. So,
And nobody wants to work weekends.
So you take a guy, so then with that said, you're gonna require that the head or someone at the highway department has a CDLA tractor trailer endorsement. It's a low paid position and they gotta work weekends.
Not on that.
JR, we're lucky to have JR able to do this.
The hauling doesn't come on the weekends because the facilities aren't open.
Gotcha.
So they, during the week.
But they
the
still
job-
have
the
to.
job still requires them to work.
Yes.
So,
Yeah,
yeah, but
all right,
again, we've got some time now to look into what we're gonna do.
okay. I don't wanna beat on it, but I have to at least say it because it just doesn't make sense to me.
All right, next fun thing is state gas and diesel contract.
Okay, let's see if I can explain this. Louis came to me at some point and said, hey, what about the state contracts on fuel? And I said, well, historically, they haven't worked for us. The last time we checked was 2 years ago. We checked every time, well, not every time, but about every 2 years we go back and check. And the state price has not been as good as what we get from others for both gasoline and for diesel. Well, it has now because of what's happened in the marketplace. Like our oil and propane for heat, the state has a contract. And the contract is both limited by time, it's a year, and by gallons. So once it tops off the top end of the gallons, then the contract's over. Usually there's plenty of capacity. And then the other is time, and I believe it's in November when it expires. But I'm not sure about that. Problem right now is a couple of weeks ago when we talked about this, I think it's only been maybe a week and a half. Yeah, it hasn't been that long. At that point in time, the price for gasoline was $5.57 for gasoline. That's how much we were being billed by Evans.
For gasoline or diesel?
Diesel, sorry, diesel, switched. So on gasoline, it was billed $5.01 for gas. And the state price was $3.85. Okay. As of today, yesterday, which one was it? Today. So as of today, that price has dropped from $5.57 to $3.97 for Evans. So it's fairly volatile. State price will always be the state price. It'll be the $3.85. Okay. So right now, Louis talking to him tomorrow morning. Yes. Talking to him again tomorrow morning to see what we can do to make sure it stays competitive. The preference would be to continue to use a local company if we can.
Mhm.
So if the spread is 5 or 6 cents, that's one thing. If the spread is $2 now, that's something entirely different. Yeah. On the diesel, I think we ought to go to the state contract. And the diesel price, the state price is $2.20. The Evans price is $5.57. And now on diesel, I think it's down to $4.50. But it's still double what the state price is.
No, and that's filling up over here on 118.
On the state garage.
And what's the accessibility?
Well, you get key cards.
You do.
It's like a gas boy, you go in and run the card. And we haven't got the cards yet, so it takes some time to do it.
So the state price on diesel is $2.20.
Yeah.
What's the $3.85?
The $3.85 is the state price for gas.
And can you join the state contract anytime?
Yeah. You can also change it anytime. So let's say it went the other way around. At that point, it's, yeah, but this is strong. That's
Once you're locked in, you don't have to buy it.
right.
Is that
Yeah,
right?
because we
So
did this before.
what is it now? Once we're locked in, we don't have to buy it? Is that what you-
You're not
So,
obligated to go either way. We're not obligated to go to Evans. We're not obligated to go to the state price.
What's the application process to get into it, or?
I'm waiting to send their email me the link to get there. So it's difficult to link stuff.
No, because it's. Look, I got another page with it on, so.
So the 220 for the state
The 220 is the,
is correct.
that's the diesel. And the diesel, the number you got, most recent number from Evans was 450.
Yes. On diesel.
So that price is what he got today for diesel. The 220 has been the price for diesel all still.
And then the gas, as of right now, Dan, is what state is how much?
The state price for gasoline is 385.
Yep.
And in June, it was 501 at Evans, and now it's 397.
Bill?
Yeah, their gas is high because right now we have non-ethanol.
Yes.
That's why there's a big price change in that price.
You put it on ethanol on the vehicles?
What's that?
Putting non-ethanol on the vehicles?
Yeah.
And the trucks themselves.
And police cruisers and lawnmowers.
Yep.
So when you switch over to the state, it's not gonna be non-ethanol, it's gonna be
That's,
regular
yeah,
gas.
Got
And so your chainsaws and your lawnmowers may not run as well.
The other thing with your gas, closest locations for the state was exit 16 in Enfield, and one month ship.
Yeah.
So travel over to just doing a federal reimbursement rate, it's $22.50 an hour roughly. You have to save $2.28 per gallon to break even of what, on top of whatever the price is gonna be.
I think
To
with
make it
that,
worth the travel.
I don't think there's any intent to go anyplace else except with Evans, but
I think I can get Evans's within 10 to 15 cents a gallon. What?
And that would be non-ethanol, is what you're saying, or? would be-
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to.
Because I will tell you, when I played around with the store down there, we had non-ethanol, and I ran non-ethanol in my Ram. And I got on average 3 to 3.5 miles better a gallon.
And that's.
So it does make sense if you're able to.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't weigh the dollars for mileage, but I mean, it increased my gas mileage, 3.5 miles a gallon, so. All right.
Any other questions on that? All right, Chris Mill Bridge repairs.
the highway department did a good job. We had a hole in this mill bridge, and they replaced it. We put a steel plate over it, which was not popular, especially.
They replaced the hole?
They filled the hole. No, there's a hole next to the other hole. So the bridge has been repaired. The problem with the bridge is not just the decking, it's also the steel underneath. And Dan had asked, and now somebody else may have asked, how do we know the bridge is safe, and shouldn't we get an engineer? And the answer is we get an engineer every year from the state of New Hampshire. He comes in and looks at the bridge. That's why it's on the red list. And it's rated, and we do not have an E1 rating yet on that bridge. An E1 rating, you should tell a truck driver, good luck, Charlie.
But it's on a watch list anyway.
It's on a watch list, it has to be fixed. They give you an example, the Potato Road Bridge is on E1 list, which means it's much more dangerous than the one at Christmas. Both of them have a danger component. There's steel, there's two wrestles that they apply. Still makes holes in it because it's what's happening is the leak down through any porosity. So did you put any concrete at all in that hole, or is it just asphalt?
No, it's concrete.
It's a concrete patch, right?
Yeah.
All right, so as long as you got concrete in it, it should be okay. You wouldn't try to patch it with asphalt.
No,
Or even half and half asphalt and a little bit of asphalt. Doesn't make any difference. But the idea is you don't want any more porosity in that is something you can avoid. As it will destroy. And how was the steel? Did you have any steel left in the hole?
it was.
Not much.
I'd like to make a recommendation to lower the weight limit on that bridge. That is not the E2 bridge.
Yeah.
Coming from somebody who's seen it for almost 30 years, been involved with what E1 and
It's
E2
not an
ratings
E2
are,
bridge.
can we, so I was thinking,
It needs to be brought down 6 tons.
What I can do is I can call the state, but they set the rates.
Because today you got chip trailers and log trucks coming up over that bridge.
well, Zany's was just
That's
up
not
there.
gonna hold.
I mean, Zany's triaxle was just up there, they're doing building lots up there.
It's not their fault because it's
No, of course not.
E2
Yep.
weight limit.
If you want to reduce it, I'll ask the state, but it's the state's decision.
Yeah, maybe we can just ask them if they can come out and look at it again, see if it needs to be reclassified or something.
Well, did you guys take any pictures of the, I mean, you might
There's a
know the state.
hole in there with no steel.
They built the state reducing.
Yeah, if they could see what it was before you patch it, maybe. Yep, if you guys do, maybe just email it to Mike or me, and I'll email it to Mike or whatever we gotta do.
Debbie, do you have a question?
I just about the weight limit on this building. I've been seeing tandem log trucks up and down the building for weeks now.
Right, yeah, and
Before the hole,
right, and
and now after.
yeah, and I think you get a bridge that's in that bad of shape, maybe the state classified it accordingly, but didn't realize that there was gonna be a logging operation and all this stuff happening, maybe it's just jarred it loose a bit. I'd hate to have somebody get hurt or something stupid happen, it's gonna cost us more money in the end, so.
That's not the first batch.
What's the E2 rating? What's the weight?
610.
No, what's the rate on on an E2 rating?
Oh,
No.
this legal limit, 80,000 pounds.
Yeah, gotcha.
I think,
I'll call them up.
yeah, we're not.
Yeah, I think so. Because as we know, with what's happening in the world, it doesn't take long for everything to change and kind of go to.
Well, people are gonna be mad if they have to close that bridge down.
Right. And that's the thing. Yep,
We got a new one, we got
The
a
school
new one.
bus uses that bridge,
sure.
so
Be
the
proactive,
longer you can
keep it open.
keep it open.
Yep. I'm with you. I think it's a good idea to be proactive. So, yep, Mike said he'll give him a call tomorrow.
That bridge is not due to be replaced until 2024. So it could go in 23 if the engineering isn't done. So it's gonna take a year to get the engineering done. If they're doing it now, and they should be, then it could be, at least put out the bid next year and start. The other problem is that you only got 4, well, not counting going through Winfield, you get to the lower part of Canaan. You got Ballpark and you've got the West Road, the South Road, and then you got Potato Road and this one. Potato Road's already a new one,
Yeah. that's 15 tons.
so. All right, well, I'll call first thing in the morning, see what they want to do.
Thank you.
All right, and on that, what do we got for highway plans?
Okay, so this has been something Louis has been working on. And
You have the list, right?
yeah. That's not okay. You got one left. You all, you guys are, you have Steve a list? Yeah. Okay, so this is a summary. I don't need.
You need it?
No.
Okay.
I'll look over yours. Yeah, I'll take one.
So, yeah, Louis, what do you got?
Most of this is just planned, but who knows what's gonna happen. Maybe some comes out very well, but I'd like to take Turnpike and grind it. And then we can change the culverts and leave it for the year. 2023. And maybe get started on South Road. We're not, Dale and I were talking, I think it's gonna be easier to just dig it with the excavator. Take the asphalt all out.
Yes.
we can use the asphalt as a recycle. And we gotta pull up rocks, I mean, there's a lot of rocks up here.
That's the main part of the problem, is all the rocks.
Yeah, there's a lot of them, so.
Yeah.
And then,
So it's basically the goal of South.
that's from just about, I would say, let's call it Mud Pond, I think between there is the worst.
So it's the hills too.
Louis, on Turnpike Road, wasn't that ground not that long ago?
It's just got red from Hazen Brook, no one. Or,
The lower end was, ground too back on Buster was you.
oh, okay, that was before.
Yeah, that was what, 20.
That was a while ago. I remember when it was ground.
And then just take the asphalt, so the thought process is to pull the asphalt off, grind it, and then put that asphalt back down as our top base, correct? Put a bottom base, fix the bottom base, pull the rocks, say back to south. Tear that up, pull the rocks, replace the culverts if needed, or obviously they're needed. And then take those grindings after we get a good solid base down there, to take the grindings and put them back down as a top coat.
No,
Okay.
we use them for dirt roads.
Gotcha, okay. So then South Road would then stay a dirt,
Until we can pave it, yeah.
absolutely, right.
There's
We have
definitely
done
a
that
lot
in
of
the
work.
past. We did
Yeah.
that up on Turnpike.
I'm not opposed to it myself. I mean, speaking off the cuff, as expensive as paving is, it's, you know, we have all the equipment theoretically, if we can keep it running, we have the equipment to maintain dirt roads. We don't have the money to pave roads. Tear them all up, make them dirt again. Just speaking off the cuff.
Then we need to.
You know,
Greatest.
As we start on this one.
Do it, man. If
So
I-
when you say run all, is that taking down the dirt? Is that
Yep, yeah, because we gotta, I counted like 18 culverts that need replacement.
What, turnpike? Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
Okay. When,
and then Hall Road. I wanted to pave up to the top of the hills, a little over 100 feet. I'd like to do that this year so that it's a really bad main when the grader has to go over there to grade that, to try and get that intersection.
right, heading back to grade around the road.
Yeah, and it's very dangerous up there. It has been for years.
Yep. Absolutely.
I know it doesn't sound like it's important to grade, to pave it, but I really think it is, or we're gonna have an accident someday, especially with you.
Yeah. I don't think that sounds like a horrible idea. I mean, there's a reason I only have, well, I'm not sure I have any driveways on Route 4 anymore, honestly. I got one. And that's because I've known it forever, but I got rid of them because you can't do them. So I can personally relate with what you're saying. You cannot back out and back and forth without just feeling like you're gonna get
Yeah,
damaged.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have I have 2 culverts that actually need replacing on Route 4. One that we were talking about, the concrete one, that needs replacing, and then the next one
Going towards,
towards Davies.
towards,
It's actually between his and his.
okay, yeah,
towards town? Back
Yeah.
to this way?
all right. All right. And it says if time allows, so that obviously. if you have
Yeah.
Enough manpower, enough hours in the day, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of little stuff to do, but
Right,
it just depends on if we have mean breakers.
exactly. Sewer break, yeah,
So no paving this year at all?
I'd like to just do that spot also. I just, with the price of paving, we're not gonna get a whole lot of paving.
What we do is encumber all the money we have.
Your question?
Yeah, so I just have a quick question on Turnpike Road. Do you want to grind in all the way down? How far do you want to grind down to dirt? How far down is Turnpike Road?
I want to do from Hazen Brook all the way to,
So,
Canaan Street, basically.
okay, so I get that. I totally understand that, but this year, I know you guys are sort of staff, not trying to sound like a jerk. But on a dirt private guys didn't rain that until the end of May. So more there.
It's not gonna stay there.
No, I understand that, but I pull dump trailers and my front equipment trailer up and down that road, and I have to do 10 miles an hour down, up and down that road.
See, the biggest,
So I'm not beating the crap out of my equipment, so if it's ground down to dirt, I think would be great. It would be a lot better than the asphalt that's there.
the biggest issue I had this year was we couldn't get a second grader. Reason being.
No, I get that, but if you guys bring it down to dirt, who's gonna maintain that? Because
We're gonna take it
Right.
but it'll only be for a year, so if we do it now, I mean, winter, you don't have to do anything with it. So if we plan on paving it next year, it doesn't have to wait till next fall, it could be done. But I got 18, like I said, 18 culverts that really need replacing.
No, like I said, I understand your guys' position, you're short staffed and limited money, but
And
I
then-
run it down that road every day.
The price of paving this year, I mean, as we know, anything petroleum product is just through the roof, but the price of paving, from what I understand, literally doubled or a smidge more. It didn't double?
No, so the numbers we got doubled,
Okay,
but it went up, we did twice as much, so we're gonna do 2 miles.
I got you.
So it went up from like 69 to 84, so it didn't go up, okay, but not double.
All right.
So, and I was just gonna talk about the money briefly, so we're gonna have roughly 180,000 left in that account, that's the construction and paving account. If we don't blow on another project, that's all we would have left at the end of this year. We would encumber that for paving next year. And I gotta see if we got any encumbrances left. If we have any encumbrances left on it, we'll use it for haul, and then we'll use it for grinding or wherever else we can use it. And then in next year's budget, at least in the discussions at the department head level, there's $50,000 more in the road budget for this type of reconstruction. And it'll be the first increase since 2010. So we gotta do something, and the fact of the matter is, you're looking at 1.9 miles minimum of the turnpike, and a south road, another mile down there, so you got 3 miles, and it's costing us about 180,000 a month.
Right.
So
Right.
that's 540,000. And the most we'll have with this year's budget, next year's budget is about 250. So we would have to go into the next year's budget in order to pull this up. So there's no hope except to increase that line for construction. So as tight as everything else is, and as tight as petroleum is, and gas and propane, and all that other crap, this has to be increased in order to do the work. And it's also what the CIP recommended last year and the year before.
Dale, did you have something?
Yeah, we got 3 spots before you spend all your asphalt money on some wheel ruts on the asphalt. They need to be filled in.
Yeah, there are some pretty bad ones.
Bristol, and there's a couple on Blackwater.
To the point where, and how I.
Cars are dragging on.
Sure. I happen to know about it because Dale was with me in my Subaru. And when we come onto it, he suggested that I hang to the right because it would have cleaned the bottom of the car up. I did have a resident touch base with me a few months ago about the fact that their car bottomed out going off the road. That's because of the road. So that is it's something we gotta look at. Yep, plowing it, how do you plow that? Right, if those ruts are that deep, what do you just leave 8 inches of snow and let it freeze and eat up more salt?
Cars keep splashing it out.
Yeah,
We're on risk of farm up beyond what we paid last year.
This side.
It's near sister-in-law.
Pheasant Lane, like that.
Yeah.
But all that's going up to Joe Maria's, that home right there. I just about wrecked my rig in, so. Bottoms out, Nissan all the time. I have to be up
We
there
didn't
the
pay
other
that
day.
much.
no.
We're,
Horrible.
Yeah.
Maybe we ought to get a price then for those ruts and for haul.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, we still have to figure out, you gotta figure out this, what plan, how we're gonna pay for all this over the next 3 years. Okay, so I can't see us going up more than 50,000 in light of everything that's going on.
Another thing that depends on is if I can even get coverage. Right now, it's going to maintain me.
Yeah.
So that might hinder things too.
All right.
Anything else on that, Louis? Scott?
Oh, yep.
Speaking of roads, I know you got a ton of problems going on, but last year, a year ago, I was in here and asked about switch.
So what we did was we looked into it and we contacted the federal government because they said they were going to fix it. And had they given us any kind of a, they did confirm that they will be replacing Holly Switch Road and they will be paving River Road from where the pavement ends to the bridge, then fixing from there up to Clark Pond Road and then all of Clark Pond. So what I don't know is when that's going to happen.
Right. And I know Louis and Dale got their hands full with the town with the roads and stuff, but this was suggested last year. I never really got a good answer out of Bob when he was here, and didn't really get a good answer out of you guys. Is there any way in these, there's 3 really bad spots on that road, is there any way that we can dig those out, get rid of the trees that is causing the root problem, get rid of it? Because it's just ruining the road. I mean, you go down there, you have to go around them, into the ditch and everything else. And you just pound the crap out of your vehicles.
He does have it on here.
It's on the list. It says fix areas by the large trees on Switch and grind the north end and fix some drainage on the north end.
Yeah, but when? I mean, that's what I'm asking. When? I mean, we've been dealing with this same situation.
Well, here's the numbers, and you tell us what you think. Yes. So to do the work, we went out and got bids on part of it, and we calculated our own cost on part of it. It's $980,000 to do the repairs that were just described on Switch Road and River Road. Okay, we don't have $980,000. The feds are picking up, I don't remember, it was 100% or 80%.
I think it was 80.
I think it was 80%. So they're picking up, it may be
100%?
So they're picking up 100% of that cost. So the way Louis put it in the plan was to do it whenever we can work it in on the trees and those 3 areas. And everything else will be done by the feds. The time frame for the feds is, I have to get in something, they just opened it up for the actual application, and I have to get it in by the 1st of September. They will then award that in October, and it would go out for construction next year or the year after. So the earliest that they're going to do their end of the project is next year. That's the earliest. Or it could be the year after, but it's more likely to be next year. They have not blanched at the $900,000 number, but you know, we can't do all of that. But I think we thought what we would do as soon as we can do those 6 spots. And that's not the primary issue. The primary issue is still get Turnpike ready and let it sit over the winter. Likewise, it won't be the primary issue to get South Road done. You know, that's going to be an issue of juggling manpower.
Well, let me ask you this, is this your decision or is it our selectmen?
They can make any decision they want. I'm just saying
You know,
what
it sounds like to
your
me,
highway worker has said, and this board has discussed that whole thing with Silvio Conti. So if you want, we can abandon the other ones, but the point is that this one is getting paid for by somebody other than the taxpayer. And it's $1 million.
so in the meantime, we just destroy our vehicles over this road.
I live there.
I know you do.
So I know.
Do you
what-
like traveling in
No,
every day?
I don't, but I will tell you that this year, for the first time, Lisa's got the damn potholes filled.
We did?
So I did, down at the south end, that has been fine for at least 2-3 months. It was not at the beginning, it was terrible at the beginning. And then they came up and did something different, because they intentionally stopped potholes in 2 months, and they held up really well. So I feel
You
exactly.
know why we have those potholes here?
Yeah.
Do you really know?
Pretty sure I know, but if you want, tell us, why?
It's because of the ditches. You started ditching up on one end for a week, and then all of a sudden, boom, nothing. And that was only because there was a water problem there. So you took care of that one, but you forgot about all the others.
Is it an option to, and I know it's not 100% answer tonight.
Right.
But we need to throw some things on the table, right? Let's do some brainstorming. That's what this is about, right? So maybe we think about taking those 2 or 3 bad sections on Switch Road and doing the same thing to those that we're considering doing the turnpike. And we just go in and we pull the pavement up, we pull the big rocks out, and we make those 3 sections, at least they will be better than they are now. And I know it takes manpower. Dale?
You gotta get rid of the big pine trees first.
I know,
That's-
so
that's-
that one, that is, it's not just rocks.
That's not a problem.
I know, yep.
I've already had somebody look at the pine trees for me.
Yep, I'm just trying to,
Whenever I'm ready,
what?
whenever I'm ready, they'll come over and do it.
So
Work with them.
pass the estimate off to us so we can look at it and let's see if it's something that we can
I
figure out.
didn't get an exact estimate because we weren't sure when it was gonna happen.
All right, who did,
But
said
if we
you,
get the trees out, yeah.
So I've been doing this.
and talk to, I would see, I don't know who you talked to, but I would say we've had real good luck with Tommy Dunkerton.
That's what we looked at.
Okay, yeah. The other side of that is I went out and drove some roads the other day. And I drove South Road and I drove Turnpike Road and I drove Switch Road specifically. And there is no doubt that those are 3 of the worst roads in town. And they do need the most attention. The thing that I would explain to you, Steve, like I get it. I get your frustration, right? But one thing, it doesn't help time frame wise, but to give you an idea, do you know what we're talking about as far as the state's gonna come in and redo them because of the conservation? Do you know about that whole thing? Okay, all right. So that's how the state come into play. I agree that the time frame doesn't work for the people that ride over the road. I agree, 100%. But I don't know, I guess if we can start with the pine tree and get an estimate there, that at least gets us started somewhere. Because look, if I was sitting where you sit, I would feel the same way. It was a year ago that I asked. So I just don't want you to leave feeling like you didn't get anything addressed tonight.
Yeah, I mean, not even if you paved it, just take and dig them out, get the stones and the roots and what you gotta get out of them.
Right.
And then just to get through this year,
Right.
put some hard pack in it.
Right, put a Band-Aid on it for now.
That's better than what we're running with.
So last year when you came in and spoke to us, Bob just said, well, the federal government's gonna fix it, and that was it.
Basically.
There was no,
Yes.
so, but what that did do was it prompted us to get town administrator to contact them and find out what the hell's going on, because they actually promised this like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So now it is in the motions of happening. It's the federal government, so it's not gonna happen.
I mean, I know that's not the only road that
Yeah,
guys looked at.
He's got you've got a reasonable approach in the sense that we could put that before South.
Yeah.
Because it's the same type of activity, and you know you're not gonna finish South Road anyway, because I don't think it's possible to do everything on South Road and do Turnpike this year. So it might be possible to move it ahead of South Road, which is the same type of work.
So maybe that's something we do. We make a list of the hard 3 or 4 areas and then we prioritize what time each of those are gonna take and figure out which
Yeah.
2 get done.
It'll never work out exactly. This is the
Right.
first time you've had a
Yeah.
friggin' plan.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
So I just don't want people to leave here feeling like they just didn't get hurt at all. So does that make sense to you if we at least look into that, Steve? I mean,
Just a kind of a quick fix. That's all
Yeah.
we need. I don't expect the whole road to be done.
I'm with you.
the other one that's is bad as well is Goose Pond.
See, I think this one's okay right now.
Yeah, I know, but the grand
The
scheme
cold,
of
the
things,
cold patch is
it's not as good as like Calvert Hill or West Farm Road.
not bad. You go any faster on it, you're running people over. So
Yeah.
it's pretty good right now.
Michael is putting out something out about every 2 weeks.
There is one rock up there that does take people down. Yeah.
Joe,
Especially there for a while.
Yeah, the dates that you referred to on, Joe, you don't put what the time of year is, or you referring to calendar year or just?
Summer is summer.
I got summer.
Okay, so
Ones that
summer.
don't have that on there?
Hang on. It's on, but the long and short of it is, this is all summer work to do all of this stuff. So the season would go from like April, May to October, November, you can still pay the lease.
Well, I'm
says it
we're
right
talking
now.
about money and planning and using fiscal, using federal government. So that's why I was talking about.
Okay,
Calendar.
the feds have the October cycle,
Right.
okay? So we're not gonna see anything until after the October cycle opens.
I'm not following you. I just was trying to make sure I understood the reference that you put on here, just a year.
Okay, that's what it is. If you're talking about Switch Road and River Road, that is primarily gonna be the funding cycle will be the federal funding. The construction will be the summer construction season.
Okay, so just read it as calendar year.
Our fiscal year is a calendar year. Okay, but that's not, and the only project in this whole thing that's federal is the Switch Road. And even on Switch Road, you still have to do it during the summer season or spring or fall in order to get that done, so.
So we're looking on here, from what I can see, summer 2022. We're looking to do work on Turnpike Road, South Road, Hall Road, and Jerusalem Road. So we add Switch Road to it, we take all of those, figure out what our couple priorities have to be. And then 2023 paving work, that would be, I would think, and I understand what you're saying, is it budget or fiscal, but that's gonna be, you know, if you're talking paving, you're actually just, you're at the mercy of when the paving companies are working as well.
Just think about money.
Right, and always money.
The money's gonna be more than what we're gonna have.
Yeah, I know. Ask anybody I talk to in town, I know. Yeah.
All right, any other questions on the pavement, on the road structure? Next thing on the agenda is truck body for Cozy Corner Store.
Well, before you hit that, did you want to report about the grader?
Yeah, the great, that's, I got all the sides.
Okay. Water, you guys are down there taking the water pump off and prepping it today or something like that? Yeah, all right. Was it, what? There wasn't a water pump done on that recently?
No,
Okay, all
it's
right.
got 11,000 hours on it, more
Yeah.
pumps, nothing on that engine has been replaced.
I guess we're doing pretty good overall.
Nothing major.
Yeah.
I think the turbo has been changed on it.
Yeah, okay.
That's the only thing.
All right.
We've been
No,
running.
I was gonna.
Since last Thursday.
Last Thursday, it broke down, and it was mostly just waiting on parts, which showed up this afternoon, so.
And you want to report on the truck body, your conversations you got?
For Fred, I still haven't got an answer from him. I'm working with my doctor Freddie, and he seems to think he might have on his drive for us that we can get.
Okay.
It's just,
And where are we gonna put it?
we can put it at the highway department on the back corner or other common spots, I guess.
Okay.
Or in the pit, whatever. Yeah, plenty of room.
Is the freight shed not an option? Because I will tell you, I've been in the freight shed. I think I officially have walked in that building and around it since I've been a select board member 3 times. And there is room in there by far to put everything that's in the Cozy Corner. You could put the whole Cozy Corner building in the freight shed.
I mean, that's what you guys.
And it would cost us nothing. And we wouldn't have to find storage place to put another trailer and plow around it in the winter and
We need to clean it out first.
sure, move some stuff around, but I
As long as it doesn't, interfere with it, it'll cost more for them doing the sills or whatever they gotta do. for the
Right.
project they're working on.
it shouldn't. It,
I wouldn't think so either.
I agree, it is always a variable, but I would advocate that we look more into that instead of spending more money. We're trying to figure out where to get money as it is, and we've got a building sitting there that thankfully, Judith is working on trying to restore little at a time, but it's at the point now where it's good, dry storage that we've had grant money to make it that way. Let's not let it sit there. Let's not spend money to do something. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it at all. It's just that I don't have any time. I gotta have these ready for closing in 3 weeks.
Sure.
Let's move stuff into a trailer and move it in there.
I know, so somebody's gonna have to go and talk to Judith and make sure it's gonna fit whatever they're doing. If you wanna volunteer to do that, go talk to Judith.
She's supposed to reach out to you.
Well, actually, we can just direct you.
I was gonna say,
You know,
thank you, don't.
you know.
We're too close to
my
each
name-
other.
You're right next. My name is not Sharap, okay, but you can't tell it.
How many more years is I'm gonna own the log cabin?
Right now, we're waiting on windows, right?
No, on the log
Log
cabin,
cabin.
we're waiting for Sanborn to complete the survey, so we
But
can.
aren't we waiting on the windows we were supposed to
Yeah,
replace?
that too, but the biggest thing to get it sold is to get the survey.
So you're right, it could be a long time. So there's plenty of storage in there. and stuff.
Hold on to it for 2 years.
We should.
By that time is,
Yeah, by that time, we can find another place to put it. So if the freight house doesn't work, which I think it will, if you're looking down Depot Street at the freight house, in the right side of that building, yeah, it's perfectly good. But if that doesn't, it's not an option, why not where they had their junk furniture storage bin in the way back of the log cabin? I will tell you, when we went in there, all of us were surprised that it didn't smell moldy and it's not leaking. So that is another, it's not a perfect option because you're trying to show it for sale, but it would be contingencies that everything would be cleaned out. And I think at the end of the day, there's not gonna be a lot of stuff that actually gets salvaged from the cozy corner. I mean, there's chairs, there's a lot of chairs and there's some things, but when I was in there with, Bev Chapman, I went in and looked, you know,
It's 1,000 square feet of property.
yeah, yep,
So, I mean, so if you're gonna do any of those options, I would go with the freight.
yeah,
that's just
right.
started up.
You gotta,
yeah, good
I don't know
brainstorm.
how much you think the freight house is worth, but even if they get it all fixed up, it isn't gonna be worth more than $10,000, $15,000. And the survey splits the freight house and that a parcel around it off, and then there's a log cabin, there's all the backing. The town's gonna keep the backing and sell off the log cabin in the front. The log cabin value of the market is about 300 grand. All right, but
But it's a good thought process.
here's the thing, the log cabin's worth 300 grand, the freight house is worth 20 on a good day.
We hear you,
So
right.
stick the shit into the freight house.
I'm with you. So I think about putting stuff in the freight house instead of buying something else. I can get with Judith if need be. I did reach out to her. I can touch base with her again, but is there a specific reason why we're asking Judith if we can put stuff in the freight house? No. I mean, other than courtesy.
Just a courtesy.
Yeah, right.
Not
Which,
to interfere.
sure. And that's why I reached out to her. So I just wanted to make sure that I didn't need to be mentioning something else to her. So, okay. I'll reach out to her again and I think we should say that we've got a plan to take the stuff from the cozy corner. Contingent that she says the contractor said no and all that, but it should go in the freight house. It's free storage. Or it's storage that we've already paid for, so it's not free. Yeah. Excellent.
Anything else on that? Yes,
So you did a map of the road, what exactly is it in the cozy corner, where so?
it was this, the skating rink is in there that they use for, old home, for in the wintertime. There's chairs in there, the rec committee had a bunch of stuff in there.
So stuff that belongs to the
It
town.
all belongs to town. Before it went into the cozy corner, 12, 15 years ago, we were actually paying to keep it over at Wellington.
Yeah.
Storage, so
Yeah,
we moved it there, so we didn't have to pay for storage.
We shouldn't be till next meeting, if you get okay from her.
Yeah, it's just do it, yeah.
once I talk to Judith, I'll get with Louis in the highway department and we'll figure out how to. I mean, one more thing that we dump on the highway department, and we already were saying doesn't have enough time, so maybe we could gather some volunteers on the weekend.
Roger, you could put it, there's a
Right.
consensus, if they get clearance from, if they work it out with, let's say, Judith, to go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
With the freight house.
If you do decide that you volunteer, let me know, I'll put it in the flash.
Okay, yep, I will volunteer my time. So, okay, Travis, yep, we got Dennis, so we'll get some, all right, nice. Done.
got something that belongs to the town and then somebody else dumped off. It's kind of open here, the window, the big window.
I don't know, Ellie.
I saw it,
Check
but
it out. But you said the architect was on it, so I thought it was something that or Nellie had taken out, cleaning out.
Gotcha.
But, so I mean, I don't know what it is, you know, maybe the kids playing down there all the time.
I think we should all be under the understanding that if we do get a group of a half a dozen or whatever volunteers, that while we're cleaning it out, if there's something that just plain is garbage, we're gonna throw it out. I mean, like you just said, this stuff's been sitting in there for 15 years, never even been looked at.
Sitting outside for a week now.
Right. So that's what I mean. Yeah.
Put it away or take it stuff.
I know Helen Robertson, there was stuff in there that was from the town too, some games and stuff that she wanted to keep.
Right.
Helen, I'm sorry, I didn't everything out. So what's left is a bunch of, going the first passageway door, there's a bunch of recreation stuff that really ought to be trashed. Behind that, there's 3 filing cabinets full of files that Vicky has to go over and see. And she better go over and see them by Thursday at the latest, because she's on vacation for 3 weeks after that. So those filing cabinets, I believe, have to be shredded, because it's all confidential information. So we have a stockpile of stuff to be shredded. We need to get that to that stockpile and get somebody in to shred it. Then you go back further, there's junk tables and some junk chairs. Those need to go into the trash. They'll have to go to bulky waste and go over to the landfill. Go to the right, there's some more file cabinets with town records in it. They are what they are. There's stuff like the Cushman golf tournament stuff that I assume we ought to save it. Friends of Canaan Village have used it as a fundraiser for years. So that'll go into storage. Then you make the turn. There's siding and vinyl drain gutter spouts, stuff that I don't know that we want to keep. That was used on some of the government buildings. Then after that, there's 125 chairs that are in good condition, folding chairs that came out of Canaan Hall, which were designed to be used for whatever meeting room we ever end up with, if we do end up with one, because there's nothing wrong. And then to the right of that, there's a skating rink, and a skating rink, it was about 20 grand to buy it. So it's the framing and the fabric and the whole 9 yards for the skating rink. In the middle, in the front, there are desks and furniture that need to go to the trash. So, and that's bulky waste, just the same as the stuff in the back room. So that's what you got. So be careful. Don't just take the files and chuck them.
Sure.
And I don't know what that thing is. Sure, I showed up a week ago. I thought it was a cooler of some sort, but there was no cooler in that building before. Yeah, but 2 years have passed, Ellie, and there's no coolers in that building. But the year before, and the year before.
All right, anything else on that?
Don't forget the fireman's option.
Good call. Anything that is salvageable that we don't need.
Like that's the
Right. Yeah. I mean, honestly, like.
super expensive, maybe if other towns would want to use it, but obviously it's just gonna sit in there. And collect dust like everything else in there.
Yeah.
Junk
It seems, sure, get some money back. So it seems as though the general consensus is that I'll talk to Judith about the freight house, and then we can gather up some volunteers, which you already got a good jump. We've all got trailers, we can come down there. I will, or either myself or somebody that I chat with to do this. I think to touch base with Fred Hammond, see if he could bring us down a container, so we're not putting the stuff into our landfill. Maybe he could just take that for us. That could be another, volunteer donation thing to save the town a bit. Maybe I got a little more couth than you do, Mike, you know what I mean? Just because people say no to you, don't mean they'll say no to me. Yeah.
I said in there for years. I see that have a store.
I'm charming you already, I can see that.
I'm the chair.
No, but, all right, so,
Whatever.
fair enough.
It's not my issue.
All right, next thing is the assessing clerk job description.
Yeah, so there was we're already late, we have an appointment. You want to put this off or what do you want?
We gotta get it on.
Okay, so but I think that the first question that has to be addressed is, there was a game plan, and I believe Cheryl's talking about this. So I sat down with Cheryl and said, okay, once you brainstorm, how do we deal with this thing going forward? And her brainstorm actually made a lot of sense, and that was to split off functions. 4 years ago or 5 years ago, we had a woman that was working in our office for a private company that did all the data entry for assessment. That's stopped, and the contract that we have now with what is called Granite Hill has it in the contract, but it's an hourly charge. Okay, so we went back and looked at how much the hourly charge would have been if we did what was being done with CMP. That was back 4 or 5 years ago. So we go from 24 grand to 48 grand to do that work. Okay, that means all the data entry work, anything to do with assessing, all that data entry work would be done by put in, change, move the building inspector stuff over to John Hanson. That's already happened. It's going to officially change with the location over to the fire station. I think on the 17th or 18th of July. He's been working part-time during the day dealing with the applications that come in first thing in the morning. And that's going fairly smoothly. That's a nominal increase. We already had money set up in the budget for that. It's a nominal increase for that line, for his line to take that over. Sherelle was in at like $56,000. The idea that he dropped that position down by 16,000, down to around 40, or maybe even a little less, but it's whatever the normal position for somebody that's an office worker that has some discretion, doing some tasks. So the tasks would be supporting the planning board with the subdivision applications. It would be doing the exemptions and credits and forbearance agreements for that's not related, it's paperwork, it's not professional assessment. So anything that is paperwork would go to that position, including being the information person for the front desk. It works out money-wise. I put that into the budget for next year, see how it works out. It's $3 grand more expensive than what Cheryl was costing. The problem is you're not going to get somebody, because one of the Cheryl issues was that she really didn't think she had enough time to do the building inspector stuff, so that we talked about that before she made the decision to leave. And Hennessy I talked to Biden about it to see how we thought that would impact the department. And he said, talk to Hennessy and see, and I talked to Hennessy, and we thought he could handle it. So it helps Hennessy, it helps the town, she's got a better background for it. So I would recommend doing that, because we are doing that. But we got to make a decision. We're going to go hire another Sherelle that's got all the expertise for somewhere between 55 and 65,000. Or you're going to hire a lower level for the front office and assign it to Granite Hill.
But Granite Hill, you said it's 48K that 1 year. So 48 and 40 is 88.
No. It's an increase of 24.
Yeah, it doubles it. It goes from 24 to 48.
I'm sorry, that's my fault.
So my first thing that comes to my mind is you can find another person that's as qualified as Sherelle in the paperwork aspect, but you're not going to find another person to do all of the stuff that Sherelle did in that position.
Right.
So you're going to end up having someone else need to take part of the responsibility.
If you've seen the job description, I think you've all got the job description.
Yeah.
So there's about 14 pages in there of all the things they have to do for DRA. And there's zero tolerance on that. They have to do it, has to be done right. It's a fairly sophisticated process. So you're either going to have to take it'll take them at least a year. Remember that Sherelle had 2 years of experience when she used to do it before she came back to her system. Okay, you don't have that. You're not going to be able to take a real estate broker, for instance, plug them into that job. It isn't anything like a real estate broker, or even a appraiser. It's all paperwork related to DRA, and they have tight standards. And they're audited, so they have to meet those standards. So I think it's going to be really difficult to get anybody to take the job. I mean, we can do it, but, you know.
Well, I think we should take that job description and advertise. And we'll see.
What do you want to advertise?
At the 40? Yeah,
Oh, the 40?
Yeah.
Okay, we can do the simple ads for that.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
If you're all right with that, I think that's the best course.
Yeah, and we see what feedback we get, and instead of us jumping the gun, right? We'll get off that and then go from there. How long?
Let's give it a few weeks.
Yeah.
It'll take a week to appear, so maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks, first part of August.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, any other business?
I just want to mention, I don't know if you guys ever read that letter that I
Yeah.
gave you 2 or 3 or 4 times ago.
Yep.
And if you ask it over in your head, I'm sure you're gonna say there's nothing you can do about it. But it is gonna occur shortly.
Yeah.
And on top of that, that's the worst thing. And on top of that, you do have North's Garage there that is becoming a
Getting pretty bad.
nuisance for us to drive up and down that road every day, taking a chance of getting wrecked.
It's a traffic hazard.
It is a traffic hazard, and they are backing out, pulling out, they can't see you coming up or down. They're right on the road when they park.
It's pretty
You
bad.
have to drive way out in the, if you're going in, you gotta drive way out here to get around that place nowadays. There's no consideration at all.
We have
for us that are
setbacks or
driving
something.
up and down. It is dangerous. Someone's gonna really get in it, someone's gonna get hurt there. I don't care how slow you're going.
So I do have your letter radio.
You do read it?
Oh, yeah, we all do.
And then on top of that, he's got tons of tires there. And you guys know this, if those things ever catch fire, we're gonna have a major explosion over there.
But at least not the 50,000 we had up at Tim Lewis.
Yeah.
So the only thing I can address a little bit is the parts about the junkyard and his shop. So it was on the list for enforcement for this year. Bergeron is officially taking over all of that sometime next week. The lawyer's ready to go to work on it. Here's the problem, and we've got, I think at this point, something like 14 or 15 properties that we're
Yeah,
sending
I
out.
know.
Here's the problem. In order for us to enforce the policies we adopted 10 years ago, and I'll explain why we adopted it, but the policy we had was, has to be visible from the road. Most of his tires are on the back side of that fence.
Not anymore.
They're in the front?
No,
Okay.
take it right up there, Mike.
Okay, so all I'm telling you is that Bergeron and I think Dan Adams, well, he's still with us, went over and looked at all these properties. And then they ranked it according to what we have in the ordinance. And they said, well, it used to be, we had a whole lot of jumps on the ratings. He says, most of those cars are for sale. Not, he apparently does not consider them junk cars. If they're not considered junk cars and they're in business, I can't do anything about it. If they are truly junk cars, we can do something about the cars. And then the other piece is we can do something about the tires if they're visible. If they're not visible, the state has a law on tires. And that ought to be up to the state. They have them turned in to the state. And probably when he has reduced the tires, it's only been because the state has gone and hit him. So we're aware of it, but I don't think, when the planning board people went out and looked at it, they said they didn't think I met the criteria. And ask them to go out and look at it again. And if it does, we'll put it on the list. Because it was an issue that we thought was a major issue 6 months ago. And as far as I'm concerned, it's still an issue, don't disagree with it. But it's also gotta meet this policy. Why do we have a policy? Because we have, I'll be careful how I word this. See, we have a bunch of junkyards in Canaan that meet the law as being a junkyard. How many? Yeah, it could be 300. You know, anytime you go by a house that's got a whole pile of junk around the house, that technically is the description. If we enforce against only 5 out of 100, we lose the case because it's discriminatory enforcement. So in order to get past that, 10 years ago, 11 years ago, we wrote a policy for the town that said we will enforce when it makes this condition, this condition, this condition, and this condition. And that's the only time we're going to enforce. Now, that means we created an objective list of when we enforce. You got to meet these conditions. I don't know any other town that did that policy, but we gave a copy of that policy to Drummond Woodson, which is our law firm, and they were blown away. Because they said that often they get cases dismissed because nobody ever did a policy like that. So they believe 100% of the policy is adopted. And we need that policy so we can enforce just in the most egregious cases. That would be an egregious case, for instance, if those cars, some of them were junk or not for leasing, if they were just there strapped, that would be enough to kick them over the edge. If there's enough tires on one side of the front fence, that would kick them over the edge. Unfortunately, not everything about the roadside. There's no ordinances.
Now, your other grandparents, per se, they're not right in the road. Your other those vehicles are supposed to like to that, to the road.
We don't have any zone.
We don't have a setback from the road.
Even though they're on that road,
Well, we can't
Not
do
ours.
it. If they are obstructing your path, you can tell me and then we can take action on that. So you need to look at those and see whether it's obstructing.
I would give it that, then I got that off the road. But they get that on the town website.
What's that?
On the town website, it says 10 feet.
For what?
Road checking control, town road.
That's a.
Whatever.
Look,
Because
further away.
I know this guy that parks his car
Yeah.
on, Road, like almost right in the road, but all the way to home. And he's nowhere, and I've gotten to there by the highway department.
Is this-
My
is this-
car on Island Avenue.
I'll check it. Can you tell me where it is so I can go
Well,
look?
I'm not sitting here, it's on the law,
Huh?
and it said 10 feet, you're not supposed to park. I think it's a car, but I assume that that would move other things besides
You
vehicles.
said that's under highway?
Yep.
Okay.
I think there might be a little bit of an avenue we could take that might be easy. So, why don't we talk with John Hennessy? He comes to mind because I'm not sure it's someone that the folks at Norm's Garage are all that familiar with, and I think that would have more of an impact. And why don't we see if John could go down? Because really, I think the real issue, being a guy that has to go by it and has to stop, I don't know, 30% of the time probably, when I'm going in, I have to stop and let other cars go because there literally is no place in his yard for his customers to park. So when his customers pull up, they're parked half in the street while they're doing transactions and all that. So maybe if someone just went to him and said, this is the deal, you have to move those tires. I don't care if you put them behind the fence or the guy from Mass comes and gets them. And you have to make sure that your customers aren't parking in the road. Everyone has to be parked in your yard. That might be as simple of a place to start as any, and then let's see if Norm can be the grown-up of the bunch. And when somebody parks in the road, he can go out and tell you, listen, you gotta be in the yard, pull 3 more feet off the road. And that might be a happy medium, because that's really what it is.
If you get voluntary compliance, that's what it.
Yeah, so
Can you put no parking signs up on there?
he might, you know what I mean? Maybe we could say to him, but we can't.
Can the town enforce that though?
I don't
Put
think
no
so,
parking signs, so you can get out here,
right?
this road, on Robbins Road.
It's because it's a historic district.
Yeah, right, it's for certain, but
Well, yeah, the short answer, is you could, but how many are we gonna put up? You know, it's like a speed bump. We're gonna have 150 speed bumps, or we're gonna, how many, what's the town?
Does it seem feasible to you to have somebody go out and just ask them to move the tires and? Yeah.
Now, could this possibly be a police department issue with the vehicles being parked on the road?
We haven't got that far yet.
Yeah, I think let's
Start with Hennessy Building Department.
Yeah, let's have our fire chief / building inspector / pretty darn decent guy who knows how to talk to people. Go out and see if he can talk to them and say, look, this is coming up over and over and over. This is what we need from you, or you're gonna be on our list of enforcements.
Yeah, car parked over here for 7 days left. And it was made clear to me by both of our surgeons, which is more important, dealing with that car, or dealing with, they had some child abuse cases and some domestic abuse cases.
Yeah, the police are taxed now.
Can't go. So ultimately, I traced the car, and found the owner, found that he was actually in the car. And then the sergeant, one of the sergeants went over, hounded him until they got the car out. But that took hours and hours and hours.
Yeah.
So if we can get Hennessy to do it on a voluntary basis.
Okay.
Now, to go back to the other issue, down the road. I'm sure that it's gonna be, oh yeah, they can do anything they want. So, do we ever get anything back from the state saying that they could, bury their cactuses all over the property, on the wetlands and all that? If they were, it was okay for them to hang hides all over the place, visible to everyone. It was all right for them to slaughter their animals and have the blood running out of it, with the rest of us having to drive down through there, jog down through there, push our carriages down through there, walk the dog, whatever.
I don't think there's much we can do about that. From what I heard, you know, that'd be like coming to you and telling you, look, the neighbor across the street doesn't like the fact that you're petting your dog on your front yard.
Yeah.
Right? I know it's one extreme to the other, but from what I understand with the process, and please correct me if I'm wrong, those things there isn't a lot that we can do about it. Whether they are burying carcasses on areas that they're not supposed to, we went out, we did a wetlands general survey, if I remember right, Mike, it's been about a year ago at this point, and we did some topographical depths to see what was in the wetlands or was not. I don't know, I will tell you, I don't know 100% what the results of that were, but my recollection of it is where we thought they were burying their carcasses. Of course, none of us are positive. We just see areas where it looks like something was dug up and buried, was not in the actual wetland portion. I believe that's what we come up with. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mike.
Well, it's wetlands up, there's no question about it.
Yeah.
So.
I know.
Yeah, I know.
You're a pain in the ass.
No, you're not.
2 minutes. So the
Yeah.
Department of Agriculture joined with USDA forced them to do the same, to meet all the standards necessary for a home slaughter operation. They're not the same as commercial. So that was done. So they got, and there's been inspectors from USDA and New Hampshire Department of Agriculture. That was done. They went back out there this spring again to make sure that they were following the rules again. They had done it. So that was done. That was the Department of Agriculture. The DES deals with disposal, rubbish. And they have rules, but the rules for on-farm, your own disposal is pretty lax. But they do have some rules, and they came out and told them what the rules were and gave them the setup of the rules. Okay, so they did all of those things. And that's about the limit of what they're going to do and can do, is that. So they got USDA involved. Oh yeah, there was a criminal investigation for killing somebody in Boston. But other than that, everything else was done that could be done on that property between USDA and the New Hampshire Department of Agriculture and Department of Environmental Services. And they got way more clout than we got. We had none of that clout. And they also overworked, and which comes to shove, I don't know what they're gonna do.
So are they registered or licensed or whatever the title is to have to run a slaughterhouse?
Depends, if they keep it in-house, they don't need that registration.
We're just selling.
If they're selling it, they do, so then we need proof that they're selling. A donation of people coming for some celebration of, you know what it's called. Whatever food is, but if they come for a celebration and they make a donation, theoretically, it's not fair. Totally voluntary. So that's a problem, and states and USDA says the same thing, that's gonna be for sale. So if it's Joe's Slaughterhouse and they're doing slaughtering and selling it, that's fine, they've got to follow the regulations. But if you're killing off your own family, that's okay.
Something else on other business. These new houses that are going in, they're putting mailboxes up
Too close.
right on the edge.
Yeah.
Of the asphalt. I think Bob had measurements and stuff, but the mailboxes are supposed to be off the blacktop.
Yeah, I noticed Harry's is pretty close. Yeah, I could.
This is not the only one, there's another one somewhere else up on the backside of the pond.
Post office has rules too, so we want to be sure we,
Well, I went to the post office and talked to the headmaster.
yeah.
When I was in charge, he said, we don't have any rules.
Yeah, we
Really?
do. Yeah, we do.
That's the
I was gonna
most-
say, we got someone right there.
As a retiree, yeah.
Yeah. You do, yeah.
So I just go back down and talk to Henry, postmaster. And there is a note you can put in the box to ask the customer that it has to be, he can't, we always tell people, back off the road so you don't obstruct the road crews plowing. And you have to be able to pull up and pull away without backing, without getting stuck in the ditch.
Right. Yeah,
You know.
certain amount of criteria.
Yeah, I mean-
Yeah. So, Mike, I know you got a million things going. Can you make a note to get a hold of post office and have them just put a note in those people's boxes? How do we do that?
What, Bill, just ask Henry, and he'll
Okay.
take care of it.
If you can tell me who, you can tell them.
Yeah,
I believe what we're talking.
yeah, Louis or Dale, whichever. I mean, you guys can just pop in when you get a minute, right?
Yeah.
That is becoming an obsolete saying, because nobody has a minute anymore, but,
As far as my concern, if you're gonna put them in the roadway, if they get knocked over, that's their problem.
those ones are gone first, I'll tell you that. Yeah. No,
Yeah, so, well, if you want, give me the list, I'll take it to Henry. You know,
okay. Yep.
All
Thank you.
right,
because
direction.
Carrie's don't have a problem letting people know to get the mailboxes in the right spots.
All right, well, we've got to do some interviews, so we're,
We do have stuff.
we're going in non-public session. So we get a motion.
Motion to go into non-public. Thank you all.